Welcome everybody to the War Room, the pre-show for the KARDS World Championships Knockout Finals. We started with 100 players, whittled that down to 32, and now there are 6 after today's broadcast. We are going to have the final 4 who will be competing for the $10,000 prize pool December 3rd and 4th. We apologize for the delay. We had some slight technical difficulties, but that's only because we wanted to bring you the best broadcast possible. I am your host, Christo. I am joined pretty much as always by Ollie, Darkness, and Spoos. Welcome, folks. We are going to walk you through who will be competing, how they got to where they are today, and a little bit about the experience that both Spoos and Darkness had leading up to this point. But Ollie, every open, every OCC, I feel like we are constantly just talking about the World Championships. We're just working towards it, and it is just around the corner.
Yep, I mean it's finally here. This is my favorite part of the year when it comes to tournaments and cards, and we're ever so close. The players that we're about to see here today, the top 6 that are fighting for the final 4 spots in the grand finals here for the World Championship. They picked the right time to kind of peak in their tournament abilities and challenge each other. And, we have all new players pretty much in the top 6 here, apart from J King, who is the reigning world champion. So he has a chance, if he continues to play successfully and make it all the way to the top 4, to repeat and do back-to-back world championships, which would just be like absolutely insane, right? But there are 5 newcomers that want to stand in his way and knock him out. And yeah, I mean, we have an exciting set of matches today. These are all BO5 series. They're all, have big consequences, right? The first 2 matches that we're about to see, the player that wins those secures themselves that spot. And then the second set of matches is basically the second opportunity, because this is a double elimination bracket. It's going to be the second opportunity for the losers of the first 2 series to make it through against formidable opponents there that have already expended one of their lives and are fighting for everything in the second set of matches. So I love this format. I love this broadcast. I think it's always awesome, the fact that we've seen over 1,000 people compete in the World Championship. Now we're down to 6. Who's gonna take it? Who's gonna get to the top 4? Yeah, that's what we'll find out today.
So while we're talking about the matches, why don't we bring up the bracket and walk through exactly who is going to be competing today? To your point, Ollie, this is double elimination. So we're going to have the first 2 brackets. The first 2 series go on. There you see on the left side, you have Bamboo versus Head. You're going to have Ollie and Spoos casting that one. On the other side, we got J King against his buddy, the Burrito Man himself, Berto Burrito. Darkness and Elin will be joining us to cast that one. Bottom of the bracket, you got Kobalsnik, you got Vinny. Both of them have, like you said, Ollie, expended 1 life. So they've got 1 shot here today to make it to the grand finals. I mean, we got J King versus Berto. I think that in our before the pre-show, we were chatting a little bit. It looks like they've been prepping together. They might have spent 20 some odd hours working on their deck list and figuring out matchups. That's going to be a heck of a great series.
No, I mean, that's crazy. It's actually crazy that we started with 1,000 players and now we're down to J King playing against Berto, right? The 2 friends facing off against each other. Berto started playing the game through J King. They've always been tight in terms of cards. They've always helped each other out. They've practiced together. They know the ins and outs of the playstyles each one brings to the table. So that's going to be an absolute nail biter. And then whoever loses that goes down to face Vinny. And Vinny, again, a guy that's been around the competitive scene for a long time, has cast with us and gone deep dived into some of these decks. He's going to know a lot about what's coming his way as well. Same can be said about Kolbosnik. And there on the left side, you have, it's also funny how we end up with, the 2 competitors from the Asia region facing off on the left side of the bracket and 2 Canadians on the right side of the bracket. That's that's cool to me as well, and it means that we're going to be guaranteed at least one person from Canada in the top 4 and one person from Asia in the top 4. Now, whoever loses that one is going to drop down to face off against Kolbasnik, and Kolbasnik is someone that we've seen, time and time again, be able to step up when the pressure is on, and I expect nothing less from him today. So, yeah, I mean, let's also not just forget, this is the World Championship, right? What happens in the World Championship is everything gets more thought out, is played a little bit slower. Nobody takes any chances here because you're not just fighting for like, oh, am I going to be in the top 16 or am I going to be in the top 8 or am I going to make it into the semifinals? No, you're facing off against, like, let's remember, all top 4 players receive prize money, right? So like, if you make it through here today, you're guaranteed like $1,000. So there's a lot on the line for all of the people here. So that's why play becomes more thoughtful, and everybody just thinks 5 moves ahead. Everybody's going to be sitting there with the deck list, checking off every card that the opponent plays, going to be able to bring up the calculator and calculate odds and stuff on all the different scenarios. And this is what makes the World Championship so unique, so special, is that just everything is on the line.
And you talked about it, Ollie. Obviously, the gameplay is going to be next level. You have 6 competitors here who are, just phenomenal. But I'm in it for the drama. Like you said, J King versus Berto. That's a great story. You've got somebody like Bamboo, who's a relative newcomer to the competitive scene, making it to this point. We've seen Head here and there in some of the OCCs and a few of the broadcasts, but J King, Berto, Vinny, Kolbasnik, these names are synonymous with KARDS esports. So you've got a great mix. I think there's going to be some phenomenal gameplay and just some phenomenal strategy going on here as we move through. Before we get into, and I want to talk about all these players' paths to today, because I do think there are some great stories to be told there as well. But, Darkness, we chatted a bit before. Obviously, you've worked with J King a lot in the way of prep and things like that. Any insight into that J King Berto matchup that you may have?
Insight. Oh, this matchup, I volunteered for that because I know those, and I tested and we prepared together our decks and strategies, and I'm very happy for them to advance that long. Of course, now they have to face each other, and I know they prepared especially against their known decks, of course against the others' opponents as well. But J King knows Berto's lineup, and Berto knows J King's lineup, and it will be a very, very hard fight, and I can't wait to see this action.
Now, Spoos, I was going to ask you a question about your experience going through the round robin. You had specifically told me that you still have a little bit of PTSD when it comes to that, so I'll leave that question out. Let's talk a little bit about these 6 players, though. And any thoughts that you may have, any matchups you're looking forward to, anybody you think or you want to double down on and say, hey, I think this person really has the chops to make it, and then, maybe even go far when it comes to the grand finals.
I mean, I've been in the group stage with Berto, and I played him in my final match, and it was the decider for me to advance to the next round or just be out in the group stage. I took the 1-0 lead there, and then Berto he just played it perfectly. I did 1-2 slight mistakes, and in the end, I just lost there and been out of the group stage. And I'm so happy to see him being here today, so I don't feel that bad to be out in that group. And Berto is here and have the chance to be in the top 4. And it's just great to see him. But it's also great to see Kolbasnik and Vinny, some really well-known players that have been around for so long. As Ollie already mentioned, Vinny being here as a caster. And it's also great to see him here today, having the chance to be one of the top 4 World Championship finalists. Really cool.
Awesome, Spoons. I would just like to point out that I did not ask the question. You voluntarily brought up your experience in the round robin yourself. So we'll just let that slide. Why don't we take a look at the paths that these players had? Because, I mean, there were some hard-fought battles. Let's first of all, we'll talk about the fact that they did compete in the round robin. To Spoons' point, the top 2 from each of the 16 groups made it through to this top 32 bracket. But, Ollie, we were talking about this a little bit before we were looking at it. There are some really, really interesting, kind of paths that these players have took. You have somebody like Head who had to face off against OH Corn Guy, against Zanyun, against Callan. Like there are some really, really solid players in this top 32.
Yeah, I think you know there are a couple of things that I want to highlight here, right? One is Bamboo. Bamboo is our relative newcomer. I'm gonna say like the path he took through the top 32 bracket is like the newcomer path, right? Because he played against Pilsudski, who's a newcomer from the competitive scene, right? He played against Shishchi, who's a newcomer to the competitive scene. Both of these players are extremely talented and have shown results in the past, but they maybe lack the depth of experience that some of these other players have. Then he goes on and plays up against Cappuccino, and Cappuccino at that point has already beaten Hui Hui 3-2. So and of course we know Cappuccino, he doesn't play around. So the fact that he's able to 3-0 Cappuccino to secure himself into the top 6, that's a massive statement, right? Head, on the other hand, he goes through San Yun, powerful player, Callan BC, powerful player, 3-0's Callan, 3-2 against San Yun, so a really close series there, and then 3-2 against Ohio Corn Guy, which must have been a nail-biting series for sure. But Tiger, sorry, yeah, Tiger, not Cappuccino, and I mean Tiger even more of a powerhouse within the competitive scene than Cappuccino.
Absolutely. It's almost like Bamboo had that final boss to go up against and went and 3-0'd them, which just goes to show again that kind of energy that they brought to this series to be able to 3-0 somebody who, again, very easily could have made it to this top 6.
Yeah, I wonder if he put on Eye of the Tiger before that match. Oh,
I'm leaving.
But then if we talk about Berto Burrito faced off against Cappuccino. I believe that I'm correct in recognizing the symbols in that name. Then he played against El Giauch, and then TB273 to get to where he is, and that's a relatively hard path. But I want to highlight J King's path through his way into the top 6, right? Like, defending the World Championship is not easy. It's definitely not easy when your first matchup is against CCMS, then it's against No 1-5, and then it's against Leo. These are two high level competitive players, and you can just see it. That 3-2 series between No 1-5 and J King, like that grudge match between those guys that's been ongoing in OCCs for the past year, that must have been an intense affair. And then on the bottom side, I got a shout out Kolbasnik. Kolbasnik got knocked down to the bottom bracket in his first round, and then just 3-1s pretty much everybody all the way through. He even 3-1s CCMS in the bottom bracket, 3-1s TB273, and then 3-1s Citrus, who also had a major run after being knocked down into the lower bracket in his first match. So on the flip side, Vinny being dropped down, 3-2 against No 1-5. 3-1 against who's that, Tiger, and then 3-1 against Ohio Corn Guy. So there's no such thing as an easy path, but if we look at it objectively, Bamboo has had by far the easiest time through this bracket to get to this point. So now he needs to really step up and show that matchup against Tiger was not a fluke. Everyone else has really proven their worth to be here, and it's a toss-up in the air about who's going to win each one of these matchups, because they've all shown that they're able to completely outplay and win against superior talent and great talent within the KARDS competitive scene. So yeah, it's my interpretation of the top 32.
I want to pick out a couple specific things that you mentioned here. Actually, first, I'll start with one thing you didn't. We talked about Berto's path beating TB and all that. We can't forget that, did have to go through Spoos in the round robin stage to get here. So